Hello Infiniteers! Today we are going to begin building Donald Duck's OJ race. And my goal today is to lay out the initial terrain near the starting line and place all of the track. Now in order to build the toy box exactly as I have it, you will need the Tri-State Area Terrain Customization Power Disc. That's a mouthful, which you see here. We need this disc for the terrain and for some of the customizable plant clusters. Let me go ahead and put mine down on the base. And no. Alright, if you do not have this power disc, then you can choose any other grassy terrain theme you like, or you can use the toy dispenser to get it once we're done with the build. And then you'll have to go back and restore a few of the terrain textures and the racetrack theme. But as we get started, the first thing we want to do is put down the sky changer, because we need to set the sky so that we can orient the toy box. And the sky that we're going to use, if we go into the properties, it's under 2.0. It's Lilo's Tropical Sky. And once we're done with the sky changer, we can delete it. And the toy box, the race, when you start, goes off in that direction. So the starting pad here is correct. Alright, I'm going to leave this piece of terrain for the moment. We're actually going to replace that, but we'll come up to the terrain category. We're going to go to the right. And we've got to go a little ways to get to the nice edge pieces that we like. Gotta go past all the slopes, past the mountains, to these pieces right here. And the first one we're going to place is right up here against the edge of the block like that, with the sky out in that direction. And we will set the theme now on this piece of terrain to be the Tri-State Area. It's a nice grassy theme with a nice rocky edge. And that's the one the developers chose to use, and it's one that I kind of like. It's very useful. Alright, we'll place another one of those down like that. And now I want to pick this piece up. We're going to go 4 pieces over to the right, and we're replacing it with this narrower piece. This is something that I did not do with the original build, but after looking at it a little more closely in preparation for the build, I chose to do that. And I'm going to change the theme on this one piece of terrain to be Mickey's Fantastic Farmstead. I'll apply. I'm not going to set the theme, I'm going to apply. And this is a very inexpensive way, memory-wise, to get some variation in scenery in your toy box, is to just change the terrain theme. Then we're going to go to this this flat block here. We're going to drop that down like that. And what I want to do, before we can put down the racetrack, we got to set the base of the terrain up for the farm. We're going to put down 4 of these. And the reason we have to do that is because it's on a mesa up here that the racetrack starts. So we need to kind of find where that's going to be. So that's why we're building this part of the terrain. So then we're going to pick this piece up, put it back, drop this down right back here like that. And then we'll pick this piece back up and put it back to get to that part of the drawer. And I want to use this shallow floating cliff over in this corner, followed by the narrow floating cliff here. Tuck that in there right like that. Pick this piece up once again, put it back, and drop this right in there like that. followed by that piece. I'm going to pick that piece back up, put it back, and we'll drop another one off the end over here, like so. We'll pick that piece up, put it back, go to the wide floating cliff, put that over here like that. And then we'll drop down 4 of these along here like so. And we'll come back over here, pick that up. We'll put down this tiny terrain block here. And, whoops, this one in here like that. Okay, so there is the base for the mesa where the racetrack is going to start. And we'll leave that there like that for the moment. We'll come back to it shortly. I want to continue building the rest of the terrain around the farm, the base layer here. So we're going to drop one of these down like that. We'll pick this piece up, put it back, drop one of these over here like that. And then one of these really wide pieces in here like this. We're going to put 2 of them down. This one will sit in here like that. That will sit over there like that. We'll come back over here and grab this guy. We're going to put this right here like this. And we'll grab this piece, put another one down right over here. Okay, and then a little bit of detail. Just add some nice little edging to this. Nice little edging over here on this. And there we go. Okay. That's about all the terrain we'll put down for today, except for the mesa here. Because again, this is going to determine where we place the start of the race. And this has to sit up here. And in order to place it properly, let's grab some basic blocks and drop some spacers down. So the first one we're going to drop is going to be right here on the back corner of this block like that, with one more square block off the end like that. Okay? And then we're going to come back and drop this right on the corner of it, 1/2 nudge or 1 nudge back. So just like that. Okay, and that's where that block goes. And you'll see why this is important here in a moment. But again, this is the block we started with the starting pad. The next block back from there on the back corner is where you place those 2 spacers. And if we pick this piece up, you can see it's a 1/2 block back from that terrain seam. So you should have a little bit of a gap there. Okay, and we can go ahead and take those out. Now, come back down to the terrain drawer. We're going to go back here to this. And at this point, we're going to drop 3 of those along there. And a row of these along the back. And just like that. Okay. And then we need the nice rounded corner pieces for the canyons. So we got to go over to the left to find those. And we want the tall ones. This is going to sit right in here, just like that. And then we'll put some extra wide canyon walls around the edge of this, just to give it a nice decorative edge. Okay, now if you're on a system with more memory, these little cliff pieces in the original toy box went all the way down to the end. I chose not to put those in mine. I'm really not quite sure why they did that. Those don't really add a lot, and the player never goes back there. But if you're on the system with more memory, go for it. I don't have enough memory on my system, so I'm not going to put those in there. All right, and then we're going to come to the top of the cliff here on this corner piece. And we're going to bring this right up here to the end of the edge of the piece. Let me find my screen grab here. Make sure I get this right. Okay, so right up to the edge of the cliff, right on that terrain seam there on the left, move it one nudge to the right. Okay, then rotate the view this way, and we're going to come off the edge of the cliff there, and one more nudge to the left, and that's where we're going to drop that block. Okay, so if we put another one down next to it, you can see it's hanging off the edge of the cliff like that, and it's a half a nudge, half a block back from the edge of that terrain seam. That's where you're going to place this block. And the reason that is important, and yes, it is very important, is because we want the racetrack start piece to line up with that. Right up to the edge of it, just like that. Okay? So it's going to hang off the edge of the cliff like you see there. All right, and now we can take this little spacer out, and we can set the theme on this to be the Jungle Book theme. So King Louis's Ruins. I think they chose this theme because the edges of it are orange, and so is the underside of the track. And so that makes for a very appropriate track for an orange juice farm. All right, and the reason why the placing of that is so important is because when we come over here to the steep arched racetrack, which is the next piece, that has to sit right there. And if it's right back at the edge of the terrain, we would hit this bounding box issue. So that's why that has to sit off the edge of the terrain just like that. So that's why the positioning is important this way. The positioning, though, is also important this way, because when we get over there to the edge of that terrain, that's going to be very important. Okay, so now we can start placing track. And we'll continue building this down off of the mesa with two steep flat pieces followed by the bowed piece. And notice the right edge of that is lined up with the right edge of that terrain seam below. And let's get this starting pad out of the way. We'll bring this up here and drop it on the mesa. For right now, we'll place it there. Okay, and the next piece we're going to put down, get to my notes here, is going to be the racetrack piece. It's a straight piece. It's this one right here. And I like to make sure the bananas are all kind of lined up the same way on the racetrack. Be very careful that this lines up with the edge of this. Don't do it that way, because it will allow you to place it there, but you won't be connected to the piece. Okay? So make sure you're lined up there with that piece. And there's no overlap. That's important because I have built this racetrack now twice. And I made that same very mistake in 2 different places on the racetrack while I was building. And when I got to the end, my racetrack didn't line up with the starting piece. This is actually the 3rd time I've recorded this video. And so that's important. Something you want to watch out for. All right, and then we're going to place down the turn, followed by 2 very long straight pieces. Like that. And then a short piece goes next, followed by the steep bowed piece. So we're going to start climbing upward now. Again, make sure that lines up and there's no overlap. And then we want a straight piece, followed by the arch at the top. And then another racetrack piece at the top of that. And again, we'll line up the bananas on the track texture so they're all oriented the same way. Then we're going to do the sloped curve, which is this piece there. That will be followed by another racetrack piece. Or, sorry, another long piece. Make sure the bananas line up. Okay. And then at this point, we want to put down this long racetrack ramp. And it's going to go downward. Okay? So when you come off that ramp, we're going to dip a little bit. That will be followed by the racetrack ramp curve left. And this is going around the big tree over here on this end of the toy box. That is followed by the nice little short piece there, which will be followed by the racetrack left. Now, make sure you put in a very short little racetrack piece here. On another build video attempt that I did on this video, I forgot that piece. And again, it didn't line up on the end. So all of these little pieces are important to get everything to line up with the carton, which is where we're entering now. This is where the carton of orange juice is going to be. You want it to line up with all the terrain everywhere that we're going to be putting down. And so on. All right, after this is the bridge. This is coming out of the carton. Again, I want the bananas on the texture to line up. And then we merge back into a single track once we reach the cliffs on the other side. That is followed by a short turn, which is followed by the banked turn. Make sure that lines up. And watch the activity meter on the right when I drop this. It really doesn't like that on my Wii U. These banked pieces take up a lot of memory, a lot of activity meter, a lot of processing power, I guess. All right, that bank turn is followed by the racetrack, and then we start climbing up into the mountains. So on the end of that, we drop the bowed piece, followed by the racetrack ramp, 2 of those, and the arch at the top, and then a curve through the canyon, and then we do some more climbing. So another steep bowed piece up here. Just one of these this time, followed by the arch. There's actually 2 arches. One goes here, the other goes back down a little bit. And then 2 bowed pieces, followed by another ramp and another arch. So it's kind of a bumpy section of track there. Alright, and then we have a little flat area at the top, so we're going to drop down a medium piece next. And again, I want the bananas to line up. That's followed by a short piece. Okay, you may have noticed that I fast-forwarded there. I made a mistake at this point, and I had built, again, the course, and things didn't line up. But I traced it back to here. So coming off of the archway there, we have the medium piece, the short piece. I'll pick that piece up, put it back. And the piece I forgot is the long racetrack ramp. That needs to sit in here just like this. And that is followed by another short piece, which is that one. And then we put the split in here, and this is where the track goes wide. So then we go over to the right, to the wide pieces, and I'm looking for the one that curves to the right and goes up, which is this one. I want to make sure that lines up. And then we go to the wide bank, and if you thought the the narrow one was using a lot of resources, watch the activity meter there. Those banked ones, for some reason, take up a lot of resources. Alright, so then we put in the wide track, followed by the long wide track, followed by the steep wide track end, and a wide ramp, and the wide ramp start. Okay, and that drops us into the top of the orange juice carton. A short wide track turn takes us through there, and another one takes us out the other side. And then we have a medium straight piece over here, followed by the wide, followed by the steep end, and then we have 5 steep wide pieces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, followed by that. If we did it right, that should get us down to the level of the mesa, and it does. Then we go over to the narrow racetrack pieces, and I'm looking for the split, which is this one. So we're going to go back into the single lane. From there we put down the very long, followed by a very short turn. And then on the end of that we need a little medium straight piece. Followed by the racetrack piece. And another turn. And if we did this right, the very long racetrack piece should connect it up like that. Okay. On my 4th attempt building this, I got it. Okay, and then you can test it out if we want to drop down a little vehicle here. Let's put down, oh, I don't know, the Gravity Falls cart, because that is the vehicle that this toy box uses. So we'll drop that. And what I want to do is just hop in the vehicle and make sure I get the little start. There we go. So because that shows up, that means all the racetrack is connected and we're good to go. Okay, at this point I think this is a good stopping point for today. Next time we will continue blocking in the terrain for the mountains and the cliffs around the track. Until then, I want to thank you for watching, and if you're enjoying these classic toy box builds, and you'd like to see me update more classic toy boxes so that you can recreate them in Disney Infinity 3.0 for yourself, then please hit the like button and leave a comment to let me know. That's all for me today. I'll see you next time.